Ever imagine making a whole comic book in just one day?
In a single day?
Like start to finish.
Wow.
That might have sounded crazy not too long ago, but that's what we're diving into today.
Sounds ambitious.
It does this YouTube tutorial by Tal Prompts, create AI comics with consistent characters. Full course claims to do just that, using some powerful AI tools.
That's a mouthful.
It is, so buckle up.
All right.
Because we're about to see if it lives up to the hype.
I'm excited.
Me too.
So what's the first step?
Well, that's what I found really interesting, is that he actually starts with the story.
Oh, so not the art.
Yeah, most people would probably jump right into,
the visuals.
Yeah, character design and stuff. But this creator goes straight for the script using ChatGPT.
Interesting choice. I use ChatGPT for all sorts of things, but writing a whole comic book script?
Right?
Did he just let it run wild, or was there more strategy involved?
He definitely had a plan. The tutorial shows how he fed ChatGPT very detailed prompts, like descriptions for the two main characters.
Okay, so like character profiles.
Exactly.
What kind of characters are we talking about?
So there's a pale blue-skin thief and Rojo, a bounty hunter, who becomes a prison warden to pay off debts.
Okay, so a classic anti-hero.
Yeah, and then you've got Rojo, who's kind of stuck in a situation he just want to be in.
Ripe for a change.
Exactly. So it's like giving ChatGPT these raw materials, and then it leaves them into a story.
That's incredible. And what kind of story do it come up with?
Well, he also specified some themes like sci-fi and drew inspiration from films like Blade Runner and Star Wars.
Okay, so we're talking space bounty hunters and dystopian futures.
Yeah, the end result is a prison escape story, but with a twist that hints at a potential partnership between Ao and Rojo.
Ooh, that's a clever way to use ChatGPT.
I know, right? But then comes the real challenge.
Turning those words into pictures.
Exactly, and that's where AI image generation comes in.
Right, he uses OpenArt,
yes,
which is gaining popularity for its ability to generate and manipulate images. But what stood out to me was how intentional he was with the prompts.
Yeah, he didn't just ask for a character. He gave really specific details.
Like what kind of details?
About appearance, clothing, even down to the artistic style he wanted.
So for someone just starting out with these tools, would you say that mastering prompting is like the key to getting good results?
Absolutely. The tutorial makes it very clear that the more specific your prompts, the better the results.
Makes sense.
For example, he wanted Rojo to have a classic DC Comics look.
Okay.
While Ao's design was supposed to be a little more, mature.
I see.
He got those results by feeding OpenArt those specific instructions.
It's like being an art director, but instead of talking to a human artist, you're talking to an AI.
Exactly, and this is just the beginning.
Oh, there's more.
Once he has those initial character concepts, he takes things a step further by training custom AI models on those images.
Okay, now explain this to me like I'm 5, because AI model training sounds pretty intense.
Imagine you're showing a child a picture of a cat and saying this is a cat. Then you show them another picture of a cat, maybe a different braid in a different pose.
Right.
Each time they're learning what makes a cat a cat.
Okay, I'm with you.
AI body training is similar.
So you're teaching the AI what the character looks like.
Exactly. You're essentially teaching OpenArt to recognize your specific characters so it can then generate unlimited variations while maintaining that consistent look.
That's pretty amazing. So you're not stuck with just a handful of static images. You can have these characters doing all sorts of things and they'll still look like themselves.
Exactly. That consistency is key for comic book creation, especially if you want to avoid, those jarring moments where a character suddenly looks different from panel to panel.
Right. It's all about visual continuity.
Okay, so now we've got our script, we've got our characters.
What's next?
Well, now we got to get them interacting in a scene.
Because comics are all about action and dialogue.
Exactly. So how do you go from, individual characters to a dynamic scene?
That's where the tutorial gets really innovative.
Lay it on me.
He uses several techniques to bring character to life within scenes, and he starts with direct prompting.
Direct prompting.
Basically describing exactly what you want to see in the panel, like, oh, is running down a hallway, guards chasing her.
So even at this stage, you're still using language to shape the visuals?
Precisely, but he doesn't stop there.
Oh, there's more.
OpenArt also has a feature called pose control, which lets you manipulate character poses within the scene.
So like a virtual photo shoot.
Exactly. Imagine being able to direct your characters like actors on a stage, getting the perfect stance and expression for each moment.
Wow, that level of control is impressive. I'm guessing there's a bit of a learning curve to master those techniques.
There is, but the tutorial does a good job of breaking it down step by step.
Okay, so direct prompting and pose control.
And if those methods weren't impressive enough, he throws in another trick.
All right, I'm intrigued.
Using AI to generate short videos.
Wait, videos, how does that fit into making a comic?
This is where it gets clever. He uses these AI-generated videos as a way to capture specific moments for his panels.
So like a storyboard.
Kind of think of it like having a virtual film set where you can control the camera angles, zoom in, pan out, and then freeze frame those perfect shots to use as comic panels.
That's a really cool technique, and I bet it gives you a lot of creative freedom to play with different perspectives and camera movements.
Exactly, and he even uses prompts to control those camera movements within the AI videos, like prompting for a close-up on Allie's face as she realizes her escape plan is working.
It's mind-blowing how these tools allow you to be both the writer and the director of your own comic.
It's a game changer.
It really is, but even with all this AI assistance, I can imagine there are still challenges in making everything look cohesive. Did he run into any hiccups along the way?
Oh, absolutely. One of the recurring challenges he highlights is maintaining consistency, particularly with character details.
Because AI can be a little too creative sometimes.
Yeah, AI can sometimes be a little too creative and introduce variations you don't want, like a character's hairstyle suddenly changing or a piece of clothing disappearing.
So it's not a completely hands-off process. You still need to pay close attention to those details.
Definitely, he mentions having to be very specific in his prompts to avoid those inconsistencies. For instance, if Alco is wearing a specific necklace in one panel, he needs to include that detail in the prompt for the next panel to ensure it doesn't vanish.
It's like giving the AI a checklist. Okay, make sure she's still got the orange jumpsuit, the blue skin, and that necklace, please.
Exactly, and beyond those individual details, he also talks about making sure the overall aesthetic is consistent, like adjusting the background colors to match the characters' color palettes.
So it's like creating a visual language for your comic.
Right.
A set of rules that ensures everything feels unified.
Exactly.
Did he have any tricks up his sleeve for dealing with those inevitable little errors that AI sometimes makes?
Like an extra finger or a weird glitch in the background.
Yeah, those little things that can drive you crazy.
Luckily, OpenArt has a few built-in features to address those. One he uses frequently is the in-painting tool. It basically lets you paint over problem areas and tell the AI to regenerate those sections. So if a hand looks wonky or a background element is off, you can fix it without having to start the entire image from scratch.
That's incredibly useful. It's like having a magical eraser that understands your artistic vision.
I know, right?
Any other cool features he used that stood out to you?
He also mentions the expand tool, which allows you to extend the edges of an illustration to create a wider scene.
So if you need to show more of the environment or add another character.
Exactly. You can seamlessly enlarge the canvas without any jarring transitions.
It's like having a digital canvas that can infinitely expand to accommodate your ideas.
Pretty much.
But at this point, we've got a script, we've got characters, we've got individual panels.
Now
What happens next?
how do you go from a bunch of separate pieces to a complete comic book?
That's where the tutorial takes us into the final assembly stage.
Okay.
And for this, he turns to a tool that's probably familiar to a lot of people, Canva.
Canva, isn't that more of a graphic design tool? I wouldn't have expected to see it used in comic book creation.
It might seem surprising, but Canva's flexibility makes it a great choice for this stage. He uses it to arrange the panels, add speech bubbles and text, and even create those classic comic book borders to give it that authentic look.
Canva becomes the digital equivalent of a paste-up board.
Exactly. You take all those individually created elements and assemble them into a cohesive whole.
It's like the grand finale of the entire process.
It is, but I'm dying to know, what does the finished product actually look like?
Does it live up to the promise of a comic book created in a single day?
Well, that's the story for part 2 of our deep dive.
You're killing me.
I know, right? Guess we'll have to wait to see if this AI-powered comic lives up to the hype. Join us in part 2 as we explore the final results and delve deeper into the world of AI comic creation.
I'll be here.
Awesome, me too.
Welcome back to our deep dive.
Last time we left off with the creator about to assemble all the pieces of his AI-generated comic in Canva.
All those panels and speech bubbles.
Right, we've seen how we used AI to write the script, design the characters, and even generate those dynamic comic panels. Now comes the moment of truth. Does it all come together into a cohesive comic book?
He definitely makes it look seamless. In the tutorial, he walks through the process of arranging the panels in Canva, adding speech bubbles, dialogue, sound effects, all the classic comic book elements.
So Canva really becomes the digital artist's studio at this point.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that even in this final stage, he's still making creative decisions.
Like what kind of decisions?
He talks about choosing fonts that match the tone of the story, experimenting with different panel layouts to control the pacing, even adding those subtle details like textured backgrounds and color gradients to enhance the mood.
I'm starting to see that even though AI is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, the human element is still essential throughout the entire process.
Absolutely. The creator even emphasizes that he's not just blindly accepting everything the AI generates.
He's still curating.
He's constantly making choices, refining the output, and adding his own artistic flair.
Okay, enough suspense. Give us the rundown. What's the final comic actually about?
Well, remember Iwao, our blue-skinned thief, and Rojo, the bounty hunter turned prison warden.
Right, the unlikely duo.
The story followed Ao's daring escape attempt from the prison where Rojo is working.
Classic prison break scenario. Any unexpected twists?
There are a few. It turns out Rojo is only working as a warden to pay off a debt.
So he's not exactly loving his job?
Yeah, he's not exactly thrilled with his current situation.
Sounds like he might be open to a little side deal.
You got it. Ao realizes this and hatches a plan to not only escape, but to take Rojo with her,
She's gonna bust him out.
promising him a share of the loot if he helps her steal a solar ship.
Okay, now this is getting interesting. Did they pull it off?
He doesn't reveal the full ending in the tutorial,
Oh, come on.
but he shows enough to leave us hanging. The final panel shows Ao and Rojo facing off against a group of guards, weapons drawn with a determined look in their eyes.
Talk about a cliffhanger. It sounds like he's leaving the door open for a sequel.
He definitely is. And he even teases the possibility of Aho and Rojo teaming up for more adventures in the future.
So this one-day comic creation challenge turned into a potential franchise starter. I'm impressed. But let's back up a bit. We talked earlier about training AI models on those character designs. He briefly mentioned that using more images leads to better results. Can you unpack that a bit more?
It's all about giving the AI a deeper understanding of the character. If you only train the model on 1 or 2 images, it might capture the basic features, but it won't fully grasp the nuances of their appearance.
So it's like the difference between knowing someone's name and actually knowing their personality.
That's a great analogy. The more images you use for training, the better the AI becomes at recognizing the character's unique traits, their expressions, their posture, even the way their clothing drapes.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like those facial recognition systems that get better at identifying someone the more photos they have to analyze. But all this talk about AI makes me wonder, where does the human artist fit in? Is AI going to replace human creativity altogether?
That's a big question and one that's generating a lot of discussion. The creator doesn't dive into the philosophical side of things in this particular tutorial, but his approach suggests that AI is more of a tool, a powerful one, but still a tool that's ultimately controlled by the human artist.
It's like the difference between using a paintbrush and using a digital art program. The tools might change, but the fundamental act of creating is still driven by human vision and imagination.
Exactly. AI can generate images, but it can't come up with the original ideas, the emotional depth, the storytelling elements that make a comic book truly captivating. Those things still come from the human mind.
I'm relieved to hear that. It seems like the most successful approach, at least for now, is to view AI as a creative collaborator, a way to enhance and augment our own abilities rather than replace them entirely.
I completely agree. It's about finding that sweet spot where human creativity and artificial intelligence can work together to achieve results that neither could achieve alone.
This whole discussion has opened up a Pandora's box of possibilities. But for now, let's shift gears and talk about some of the practical aspects of using these AI tools. He mentions that OpenArt offers a free trial, but you need a paid plan for full functionality.
That's right, and he specifically highlights the importance of the paid plan for unlocking features like character model training.
That makes sense. Those AI models require a lot of computing power to run, so it's understandable there's a cost associated with them.
Exactly. He also encourages viewers to experiment with different AI image generation platforms, as each one has its own strengths and weaknesses.
So it's like any creative tool. You need to find the one that best fits your workflow and artistic style. Any other practical tips he offered that stood out to you?
He emphasized the importance of patience and experimentation. Learning to use these AI tools effectively takes time and practice. Don't expect to create a masterpiece on your first try.
That's good advice for any creative endeavor, really. It's all about embracing the learning process and being willing to experiment.
Absolutely, and he reminds viewers that even though AI can speed up certain aspects of comic book creation, it's still a craft that requires skill and dedication.
So it's not a magic button that instantly turns you into a comic book artist. You still need to put in the work and develop your own artistic voice.
Exactly. And he encourages viewers to study the work of their favorite comic book artists, analyze their techniques, and learn from the masters even as they're exploring these new AI tools.
It's like any art form. You need to understand the fundamentals, the history, the visual language before you can truly innovate and push boundaries.
Well said. And speaking of pushing boundaries, we've only scratched the surface of what's possible with AI in the realm of comic book creation.
I'm already feeling overwhelmed by the possibilities. Where do we even go from here?
That's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive. We'll delve into the broader implications of AI for the future of storytelling, the ethical considerations, and the potential impact on the comic book industry as a whole.
Okay, now you've really piqued my curiosity. Join us for the final part of our AI comic creation adventure as we wrap things up and ponder the big questions. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into AI comic creation.
It's time for the big picture stuff.
Right? In the previous parts, we saw how AI could handle everything from script writing to art generation. It's impressive, sure, but a part of me still wonders, can AI truly replace human storytellers?
That's the question, isn't it? Right now, AI is a master mimic.
A mimic.
It can analyze thousands of stories, learn the patterns, and turn out something that resembles a human-made plot.
So it's like a superpowered parrot,
Kinda.
repeating what it's heard but not truly understanding the meaning.
In a way, yes. But here's the catch. AI is evolving at a breakneck pace. Who's to say that in a few years it won't be able to grasp those deeper layers of storytelling? The themes, the metaphors, the things that make a story truly resonate with readers.
Okay, now you're getting into sci-fi territory. But it's a fascinating thought. If AI becomes that advanced, what happens to human storytellers? Do we become obsolete?
I don't think so. I see it more as a collaboration. Imagine an AI that can help you brainstorm plot points, flesh out characters, even suggest dialogue options.
So it's like a brainstorming partner.
It wouldn't be replacing your creativity, but amplifying it.
It's like having a superpowered writing partner who never gets tired or needs coffee breaks.
Exactly.
That could lead to some incredible collaborations. But what about the comic book industry itself? How will publishers adapt to this AI wave?
I think we'll see a more diverse landscape.
How so?
On one hand, you'll have big publishers potentially using AI to streamline their production processes, maybe even experimenting with AI-generated content.
So faster turnaround times, lower costs, maybe we'll finally get those monthly comic releases back on schedule.
It's possible. On the other hand, AI could also empower independent creators.
How so?
Suddenly, you don't need a huge team or a hefty budget to produce a professional-looking comic.
That's an exciting thought. It could lead to an explosion of new voices and stories that might not have had a chance in the traditional publishing world.
Exactly. And this brings up a really important point. AI has the potential to democratize comic creation, making it more accessible to people who might not have the resources or the traditional artistic skills.
It's like those home recording studios that revolutionized music production. Suddenly, anyone with a computer and a good idea could become a musician. Could we see a similar revolution in comic books?
It's certainly a possibility, but it also raises questions about authorship and originality.
Like what?
If anyone can use AI to generate a comic, how do we define artistic ownership? How do we ensure that AI-generated content doesn't flood the market and drown out those unique human voices?
Those are big questions, and I don't think they're easy answers. It's like the early days of the internet, a lot of uncharted territory and a lot of potential for both good and bad.
Exactly. And just like with the internet, it's going to be up to us as creators, consumers, and as a society to figure out how to navigate this new landscape responsibly.
So what can we do?
To establish guidelines, have open discussions, and make sure that AI is used to enhance creativity, not diminish it.
This deep dive has been an eye-opener, to say the least. We've seen how AI can be a powerful tool for comic creation, but it's clear that the human element remains essential. It's that spark of imagination, that ability to connect with readers on an emotional level that will always set human creators apart.
Well said. As we move forward into this new era of AI-assisted creativity, it's important to remember that technology is just a tool. The true power lies in the hands of the artists, the writers, the dreamers who dare to bring their visions to life.
So to all you aspiring comic creators out there, don't be afraid to experiment with these new tools, but never forget the importance of your own unique voice and perspective. The future of comics is in your hands, and I can't wait to see what you could create.
And to our listeners, stay curious, keep exploring. The world of knowledge is constantly evolving, and we'll be here to guide you through it one deep dive at a time.